Okay, can you see my intraday grid? Everybody can see it? Okay, excellent. Very good. Okay. How many of you attending today utilize this grid on a regular basis? Many of you. Great, great. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spend a couple minutes and I'm going to go through at a high level a general overview. I'll review the various components that make up the grid. And then we're going to open up the floor for Q&A, and obviously you can ask questions regarding pretty much whatever you want. In particular, we'll start with, though, the grid while this is fresh in our minds. So I'm going to walk through this each day. This is constructed using a proprietary blend of technical tools. We use our Thinkorswim TD Ameritrade platform to produce this. The analysis is performed independently on each of these indexes pre-market to establish these precise levels, and we do take into consideration the pre-market action in the futures that assist with that. And the more volatile that pre-market is, the more challenging it becomes to get this delivered to everyone by the open. So if you're wondering why has it come so close to the open, is because one, this is handcrafted, and two, we're utilizing as much information as possible to the very last minute to be able to deliver to you the most precise information possible. And each morning this is revisited. So it is best to look at the most current grid each morning. Maybe there's some of you out there that compare past grids and it's become helpful for you in some ways, but just in terms of best practices, the information that is generated is meant for the session that is happening that day, and then the next session as we present it each morning. The intended trader style, as many of you are aware, is for intraday traders, those of you who have trade planning that consists of 1 to many trades per day. Now, those of you that are more near-term traders, and by definition for us, near-term is simply 1 to 5, say, trading sessions. Short-term is 1 to 3 weeks. So those of you that are more that near-term kind of swing trader, this can be helpful, and I'll explain where and when that can be helpful as well. So that's just some background housekeeping information on the grid itself. Now I'm going to walk through the components. So each grid has the 3 indexes, the cash indexes, and the S&P, the NDX, and then the Russell 2000. And they consist of an upside and a downside. So obviously we have our upside over here. And I'm just getting these numbers back into Zoom here a little bit. And we have our upside, we have our downside, and then from there we have our key levels and zones. So what we're looking for are areas that are the highest probability for the indexes to pause, consolidate, accelerate and continue, and potentially reverse. So today was an amazing day in terms of a lot of action. Obviously, all of it, for the most part, is on the downside in terms of how the grid was set up. And what we see here today, and I'll come back and I'll walk through the Hull moving average here, our reversal scout in a second. But we opened the day with the Hull being negative, and we came into we blew through the first acceleration zone and went into the second acceleration zone, and then we got about, I don't know, looks like about 50%, and then we bounced, and then we came back through. So these are resistance or support areas, or their support trigger line, okay? And the analysis suggests to us when we put this together that when we violate our support trigger line, that we will fulfill the acceleration zone. Okay, so that's the design of this. Obviously there's no guarantees of that, but that is the intent of the design, is that we are trying to find a price vacuum where there's accelerations, opportunities for impulse waves or moves through various price areas. And then as as you move through the grid here, we enter into a support zone. So the expectation there is there would be some consolidation. Likely when you have the reversal scout negative, the likelihood of a follow through on the downside is obviously higher. If the reversal scout was positive, we come into support, then the consolidation might last a little longer. You might see a bounce from there. But today we didn't have that. We had a negative momentum primary indicator on our 15-minute charts. And so we violated and we fulfilled that first area here. We got into the key intraday support zone. We actually came through there and we fulfilled the third acceleration zone here, and right on the money, tested that key intraday support zone number 2, and then we rallied. And that's the expectation, is that when you get into these key support zones, that there's a higher probability that there's going to be some kind of reversal. Obviously no guarantees in any way, but this is just suggesting the analysis tells us that there would be a bounce, and that's what we got. So we got more of consolidation. That's what's expected in the support zones, but then when you get into the key ones, you're going to have a bounce. So even though we violated this one, you can see that we still came back through it. So it's very interesting to keep an eye on those support zones, those key support zones. Okay, and now I'm going to come over to the NASDAQ to see if there's anything else in here. Yeah, many of you probably noticed I had to come out and I did a follow-up set of areas today because the NASDAQ was more extreme in terms of that downside pressure this morning, and actually penetrated through, what did we do? Four acceleration zones, even the key intraday support zone. We came in and tested the next levels of the acceleration zones, bounced off that support, and then accelerate quite significantly back. And that's what that's what's anticipated based on the analysis as we got through this key support area, that there would be some reversal back into it, and that's what we saw today. And then Slim talks about this, and I'll let him chime in too to share anything additional. But it's great for getting a sense of relative strength. So obviously today, the Russell, even though the futures were suggesting a much more stronger downside pressure in the morning, we didn't get that. And the rut was the strongest of the indexes, not even violating any of the, not even getting into the support zone or violating any of the acceleration zones. Hope that was helpful. Go ahead, Slim, if there was anything you wanted to add. Otherwise, I'll open it up for questions.
Actually, no. The just again the comment of how how this screams out if you're a pair trader, which ones to buy and which ones to sell. I mean, the strength in the Russell was just crystal clear, as it could not even get into that first acceleration zone on the downside this morning, when the other indexes were just plowing through all of them. So it was a lot of important information there. And if you're not a pair trader, it just tells you, if you want to be short, which one to choose. If you're only trading one of them, and I think it's important to keep your eye on all of them. You just might get some good lead information in that regard.